Well, folks, it took a little bit, but breaking news right now. Eric Bieniemy is moving on from Kansas City. He is out of here. It's been a number of years, and it's not the job that he wanted, but Eric Bieniemy does get a chance to grow outside of himself and the Andy Reid tree and take his career back into his own possession. I think this has been a long time coming. We're going to talk about the change Eric Bieniemy to the Washington Commanders as their offensive coordinator and slash assistant head coach. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. Unfortunately, it's not as rosy as you would hope. The assistant head coach title does not carry compensatory picks like the head coach title does. So, unfortunately, the Chiefs are not going to get compensation back in the form of compensatory draft picks. A lot of ways to go over this. We're going to talk about his replacement, what's going to go on now. But what is in typical fashion for the Kansas City Chiefs, whether it's pre-thought or not, it is Friday afternoon on a day when everybody's starting to come down off the Super Bowl and relax a little bit. And Eric Bieniemy is on his way out of town. Now, this has been a long time coming for Eric Bieniemy. We felt that he's needed to grow outside the Andy Reid tree for quite a while. We thought he would have a head coaching opportunity. It has not materialized after what I think is a grand total of 19 head coach interviews for Eric Bieniemy over the years, and it hasn't materialized in an offer to become somebody else's, another franchise's leader. But that said, he does have the chance right now to move on in a lateral move, slight upgrade to be Ron Rivera's assistant head coach, much like he has been functioning for Andy Reid and the offensive coordinator of a team right now that is in a bit of flux. They have some interesting pieces over in Washington. I don't know if they're going to have them all by the end of this offseason. I think the plan for the franchise over there in Commanders, and I'll have to check with David Harrison of Locked On Commanders who will tell us, I think that's going to be in flux a little bit on the defensive side in particular. But for Eric Bieniemy, it's going to be about the quarterback position. You're stuck. Taylor Heineke is on his way out. He's a free agent. He will get a contract elsewhere. I nearly guarantee that it will be more money than the Commanders can pay him. You have Sam Howell, who you all know, I think, understand that he is not ready to play right now. Hasn't been this season, but maybe he is in the future. I don't know where Eric Bieniemy had him in terms of a prospect when he came out. I had Sam as a midday pick, a guy that could eventually grow into a starter role. I don't know if he's ready yet, but Eric Bieniemy is going to find out real fast because the only other option in Washington is Carson Wentz. So by Eric moving on, he's certainly bought himself a couple of things that he has to figure out and a couple of things that he likes. You got to feel like the defense is good over there and that they can round that back into shape. And you got to feel like this is somewhat of a comfort move because Ron Rivera, obviously Super Bowl champion with the Bears back in the day, the best team ever. And then obviously tied to the tree of Andy Reid. There is a uniformity of thought, I'm guessing, that made this a pretty good pairing, especially for a defensive-minded coach in Ron Rivera, and now EB, where he's going to be able to make his offense his. It'll be a version of Andy Reid's offense, but we don't really know what it's going to be. I'm really excited to see that for EB. For the Chiefs, it gives them what they finally have felt has been coming for a long time. Now they can kind of take a breath and move on with what a plan that I think has been there for a bit. I do believe Matt Nagy will eventually become the offensive coordinator due to the Rooney Rule. They will have to at least interview a few other people. There are some other in-house candidates. You could look at Greg Lewis. I talked about Lewis becoming the quarterback coach on Locked On Chiefs the other day. I do think that's a natural progression as well. You'll have at least a couple of interviews from outside the building would be my guess. But in the end, because Doug Peterson is not available, I do think it is Matt Nagy's job to lose, despite whatever the actual interviews come down at. So I know you guys have some questions. I'm going to get to those in a couple minutes. Let me finish my thoughts, and we'll get into yours. Now, what it doesn't do is bring what you would hope, and the thought has long been that Eric is eventually going to go and become a head coach at another organization. Because he did not take a head coach title, and it is an assistant head coach, the Chiefs get nothing for it. It is difficult. Originally, there was a clause in the rule that said if you upgraded your level, if you took a promotion, and this assistant head coach title actually would be a promotion. But as I understand the rule today, It is only for a head coach position or a general manager position. That's why the Chiefs got compensatory picks in the form of a third this draft as well for Ryan Poles taking over Chicago. Don't think they're going to get anything for this now. I believe Matt Derrick has confirmed that on Twitter. We have to go back and make sure there's not some clause in there that I didn't read in the CBA deal. The Rooney Rule is somewhat nebulous in some way, so we got to make sure that we find that out as well. So what it does is it sets up a cascade. Could there be an outside candidate that sneaks in and takes over the OC? It's possible. I find it very, very unlikely. I do think Matt Nagy will be the offensive coordinator. I know Dan agrees with that. I think Chris agrees with me over on Locked On Chiefs. I think everybody's in agreement that's probably the way that it's going. But it does leave some room open for some of the other positions because that domino effect will take Matt up to OC, passing game coordinator as well, which is, I think, what he's been doing now, as well as quarterbacks. So quarterbacks could go to Greg Lewis, which is what I think might happen. Could be Joe Blameyer in-house. Could be a number of candidates outside. Cliff Kingsbury is sitting out there. I don't know that he wants to come back and just be a quarterback coach. Quite frankly, I think he should consider that option because I think Cliff Kingsbury got way in over his head as a head coach. I think he can be a good offensive coordinator in the league. I don't know if he can get back to head coach at all. But I do think a quarterback coach with your college quarterback, I do think there's some symmetry there that could help Cliff get his career back on and would probably bring a little bit of comfort and a little bit of back and forth from where he and Mahomes were several years ago. But make no mistake, even if Cliff Kingsbury came into the fold in Kansas City, he will not be offensive coordinator as far as I can foresee. I think that is Matt Nagy's job, and for a couple of reasons. Matt Nagy's very creative. He and Patrick have a very good relationship as well, and it is a more mature relationship in that it has been formed in the NFL. Cliff and Patrick obviously have a connection from college. Cliff hasn't fared so well in the NFL, and I don't think that would make him able to leap Matt Nagy. I think Matt Nagy is eventually going to be a head coach again. The question becomes is how long does Andy want to coach? How long does Nagy want to wait? Is there outside interest? This whole thing with EB has taken longer than we all thought. Could that be the case for Nagy? And maybe Matt Nagy becomes the heir apparent to Andy Reid. Could be an option. I don't know if it's likely or not, but I will say that it is an option. So I do think that's what happens. I'm really interested to see who is the next guy, though, because it was Kafka. He obviously went out to become a coordinator because he was the quarterback coach. Quarterback coach has a lot of access to Patrick Mahomes, and clearly that is a resume-building aspect across this league right now. No other ways about it. Now, what are the Chiefs losing in Eric Bieniemy? They're losing a confidant, a guy that can motivate Patrick Mahomes, that can challenge him. There are people that can challenge Patrick Mahomes. EB is one of them. Matt Nagy is a creativist. He is a guy that is X's and O's. He's a little more wild. He's a little more fun than Andy Reid is. I haven't seen Matt Nagy be that kind of challenger, that kind of pusher to particularly his team in Chicago. I know he had to do it, but it felt like it wasn't necessarily natural. So I think it's a different relationship, EB versus Nagy to Patrick. That will have an effect as well. So I do like both things. What the Chiefs are getting is it's going to be a little bit more Wild West, in my opinion. I do think the league's pendulum is swinging back towards the center. The Chiefs won this Super Bowl with balance on offense, with nearly as many runs, just one less than they had passes. Balance is coming back because of the way teams are playing drop 8 and leaving boxes open. That's going to continue. So it's a little bit of a shift away from Matt Nagy. I would say he is more of a pass-happy guy like Andy Reid is, but I do think the run game is going to continue to filter back little by little. We'll ask Mike Burton what he thinks. Mike will be with us next week. He's agreed to come back on the show, so you'll see Super Bowl champion fullback Mike Burton from the Kansas City Chiefs here on the channel next week, so stay tuned for that. But the evolution, again, we talked just this week about, okay, we're happy about the Super Bowl. It's about to take a leap. It's about to take an evolution again and change what this offense is. Part of that is going to be due to this change with Eric Bieniemy moving on to the Washington Commanders and the new offense coordinator coming in. I do think it's going to be Nagy. I just want to be very clear about that. It's probably not a done deal yet, but I do think that's the way that it goes. So I think that brings you back to what else can happen here. It is, I think, a good thing for Eric Bieniemy, even though it's not a head coaching job. I think it will allow him to put his stamp on a team's, at least half of a team's on-field presence. Would have been better to be a head coach. I'm sure he feels that way too. But it does give him the opportunity to be a leader, an assistant head coach, and run his offense. I think that will be the big thing that takes it to the next level for him and makes him a head coach, probably sooner rather than later. I expect his tenure as this assistant head coach / offense coordinator in Washington, I expect that to be markedly shorter than his tenure in Kansas City. I do think he will be head coach pretty quickly. I'm going to get to your comments and questions here. New Punk, thank you. Appreciate the support, buddy. I love how the media only waited 4 days to crown Buffalo and Allen as champs. Why is KC the most disrespected team in football? Because it's the darling effect, I think. I think it is just people looking for an excuse to see Patrick get Tom Brady treatment. And it's just so easy to say they're the best team in football because they're the best team in football. And I think fan bases everywhere else start to get tired of that. And then I think their local media start to get tired of that. And then I think the national media wants to just stir stuff up. I think that's mostly what it is. Nuke Punk, I appreciate your support, buddy. Thanks for the super chat. And we'll see where it goes from here. We'll go back to the top of the list and answer questions. If you all are regulars here, throw a question mark in front of your question because it helps me find it. If you're new to the channel, hit that sub. Make sure you become one of us here at Rogue Nation. We are part of Chiefs Kingdom. So let's get into it. I like this one, Cardicky, sorry. Give him a corn dog on the way out. Yep. Hey, got to use it where you got it. Is Marcus Davenport on Veach's mind? I think that's an interesting one. I'm not sure the Saints are ready to part with him. I think he's got one more year on his contract. So if they part with him next year, I think so. I think this is year 4. If not, if he's available, that is exactly the kind of guy that Veach would pick up as a free agent, a former number 1 who was quite frankly overdrafted at the time, that maybe needs a change of scenery to put it all together. He certainly has physical tools. I believe he's been injured once by my recollection as a pro, but I don't recall it being really significant, anything that lingered. I'd have to take a look at how he played this year, and because I didn't watch Saints specifically, I'd have to get back with you, but you never know. This is in the range of older veteran, failed first rounder, that kind of thing that Veach loves. And I think it's a really smart, should be a low cost investment if he is available. But like I said, I think it's going to be a year out. Thanks, EB, for your contributions to the Chiefs Kingdom. Good luck. Go Hogs. I like that, Gary. Yeah, the old days of that offensive line group. Whoo, man, I tell you what. Chris, hope you're doing good, buddy. Should we look into Byron Leftwich or Alex Smith as QB coach? I have said this for a number of years. I think Alex Smith will be an excellent coach. I think starting as a quarterback coach, working with this team and Patrick, most of the time I would tell you there's no way that egos could fit. But Alex Smith, Patrick, and Andy Reid have a very unique relationship, and I do think it could work. I would love to look that way. Can Byron Leftwich come into an Andy Reid tree system? I find that more far-fetched, to tell you the truth, just because of fit. I think Byron got a bad deal in Tampa. I think he got scapegoated a little bit. I think he deserves another chance. I don't know that it's a fit with Andy Reid, though. That's probably the best way I can put it. 2-time Super Bowl C. Is he a terrible interviewer, or does he have less to do than we think in KC? I think it is partially the fact that he is a gruff, like he has called Patrick, he's a competitive prick. He is demanding. He is hold you to the fire in terms of accountability, which old school dudes like me really appreciate. Young kids in their 20s don't really dig. So I think there's a culture change. Not even a culture. It's an ageism thing. I think it's an old school versus a new school thing. And I think a lot of owners have been so on this McVay, young guy, don't care about experience. We just want the newest, fastest offensive coordinator kind of thing. That's been what's been like preventing him from getting a head coaching gig. And I think because he works for Andy Reid, he can't say this is my offense. That changes right now. And he will be able to say this is my offense in Washington because he will be the only guy in charge of it with a defensive head coach. It gives him full ownership of it. And I think that might be the thing that needs him to kind of break him out from underneath the Andy Reid tree. Good question, buddy. Let's see. Glad to see he'll be in the NFC. That's a good point, Tilly. Hope that he has success and can show all the haters they were wrong about him. I hope so too. Yep, I definitely agree, Chris. I think he'll do great, and I do appreciate his old school harshness, to put it that way. Let's see, Chad. Do you think the offense takes a step backward or forward? I think it's more of a lateral. I mean, let's be real. They just won a championship with a bunch of receivers that were either, in high school 5 years ago when Patrick started for this team for the first time, or are retreads of some kind. I think it's going to be more of a sidestep until they get their weapons back in order. I think Tony, Sky Moore are the future of this receiving group. What does that tell you? It tells you maybe you get a veteran back. I hope it's Juju. MVS certainly made a contribution in the playoffs. Was more frustration than success in the regular season. And I think there are some really interesting, good fits as X-type, power-type players that also have some athleticism at the X position in this draft class. I'd love to see them go big receiver in the draft on day 2. I can see a top 100 pick going to wide receiver for sure. Can I see it as the first round pick? Only if things go terribly bad with offensive tackle and edge pass rusher. But you never know. That could happen. We'll have to see how it falls out. The two guys that I like that you're going to recognize at least one of their names is Cedric Tillman from Tennessee and A.T. Perry from Wake. I think Perry's great. Is it Wake or is it Purdue? I can't remember. Black and gold uniforms there. I love Perry's game. I have for 2 seasons now. And I think he would be a really excellent way to transition to a bigger body guy that can still move. He's not quite the deep threat that MVS is. So you'd have to add that straight line, deep, take off the top portion of the wide receiver core. But I think that can personally happen. I'm not concerned about that. Yes, that is correct, Chiefs lover. He has to be with the Commanders for 2 full years. That is the stipulation within the Rooney Rule to get those 2 third-round compensatories. But if he is there for 2 full calendar years and then he takes a head coaching job, Washington will get 2 third-round compensatory picks. Yes, that's exactly what he was. Yeah, Cliff was his coach at Tech. Trev, I'm with you. I think Matt Nagy, much as we're hearing speculation that my guy Rex Ryan might be coming to the AFC West as a coordinator, I think Matt Nagy might be a guy that is best as a coordinator, at least for now. I think he tried to do his best at Chicago as a head coach, and I think he had some issues. I think he showed a little bit of a lack of confidence in decision making, especially with the quarterback. But that's okay. Some guys are better as coordinators, so I think that's perfectly fine. I agree with you. Like Doug, if Doug were available, I think he would be the shoe-in. Do you think that the Eagles QB sneak play is going to get banned? It's a good question. I think an aspect of it can be, and I think it's going to be about actually pushing the guy forward. I think it will be not banned, but modified and stipulated that nobody can push the quarterback from behind is going to be my guess. But that doesn't mean you can't have fullbacks and running backs go push the offensive linemen up. And I think that might be the counterpoint that happens there. Let's see here. Chad, do you think that we'll get who do you think we will get back up for Patrick Mahomes next season? That's a good question. I speculated yesterday. Chase Daniels is available again. He's 37 years old. He is the aged veteran. He's been here before. He knows Patrick. I think it's like too classic of a fit. I know you Mizzou fans would love it. I think it would be a great fit. I'd love to see it. But I do kind of still lean towards Andy probably wants a veteran. So look at the free agent list and see what you think. It ain't going to be Tom Brady, I'll tell you that. It ain't going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. Looks like Carr is going to the Jets today to have a conversation. Do they let him leave? That's going to be the question there. So I think that's kind of interesting. Stidham is also a free agent there in Vegas. I don't know if I'd go that young. I do think Andy's going to want a vet. How much does not wanting to hand Casey a third round pick play into EV's difficulties? I don't think it's much because they're compensatory picks. It's not the team making the hire that has to give up anything. They are the manufactured compensatory picks that the NFL awards at the end of round 3. So the hiring team doesn't lose anything. So I don't think that plays a ton into it. Maybe it does in the AFC West. Maybe Buffalo, but not that they're going to get rid of McDermott anytime soon. But I don't think it has a huge effect on why it's been so hard for Eric. How about those Chiefs, Jayok? I like it. Hit that like button. If you guys would, I would appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the sub if you're not one of our normal contributors around here. We would appreciate it. Here we call us Rogue Nation, part of Chiefs Kingdom. We are a subset of NFL fans, and I know you guys are here for it. Mostly concerned about the losses at offensive tackle. Right now, the Chiefs, both starters in the Super Bowl are free agents. I do think one of them returns. I'm not sure who it is. I got to tell you. And I do think that the offensive tackle class is going to give the Chiefs enough that they feel they can get somebody that can come in here. Long shot guys, I think, are going to be the way that it goes. I lean towards athleticism. I'd rather err on the side of an athletic tackle that has to grow into strength than the opposite. Much like the Fish formula, really. If you guys remember Eric Fisher, he was underpowered when he came out, but he had really great feet. That's why he and Lane Johnson are the guys that have survived out of that class, because they were great athletes. The guys that resemble that remark in this class are going to start at outside of the top 3, because I don't think the Chiefs can get a top 3 in Skoronski, Jones from Georgia, or Paris Johnson from Ohio State. I think it's Jalen Duncan, Matt Bergeron are the options they're going to start to look at. I think they have to do a really good job in evaluating those two players in particular, because that's right second roundish, maybe even into the third roundish, where they can pick that have the athleticism that I think this offensive line needs. Let's see. And by the way, both of them start at left tackle. They could both play right in a pinch. Not even in a pinch. They could transfer to right. If they decide they are going to franchise Orlando and they're going to let Andrew walk, that could happen. I think Andrew has a possibility of that too. He's 28, 29 years old. I think he's going to get a decent contract offer that won't be from the Chiefs. I know there's some super chats, you guys. I am going to get to them here as quickly as I possibly can. Okay, so I was wrong. Looks like Davenport is a free agent. So yes, that would be back to the scenario where perfect kind of guy that Brett Veach likes, and I think that's worth it. I answered the Alex question. Do you think that OBJ and Wiley are back next year? I think, like I said, I think one of them are not. I doubt both. There are no compensatory picks, Ocean Caroline. Sorry. And mahalo for the question. Appreciate you. Do we re-sign Juju or Orlando? I think you re-sign Juju. I think Orlando's a franchise tag again. And Jonathan, yes, you got it. A.T. Perry is my guy. I agree, John. It is a great fit for Nagy. I think that's why he's here. And then Jared likes the Cliff Kingsbury thing. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. It could both happen. No question, but I think this is my third year as a starter. I love the show. Money well spent. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you being a member for so long. And folks, that's what that little S sign is. Preachers has been here a long, long time, since I started the channel nearly right after that. And the memberships get you inside goods and a couple of perks, including the Discord community where you can be part of Rogue Nation on the inside. You just got to join at a rookie level or above. Appreciate you, Preacher. Appreciate your questions as well as your support, but just appreciate you being part of the community for this long. It's incredible. Mock drafts have A.T. Perry going in the 40s. Right. I don't think that's where it ends out right now. It depends who the mock drafter is. I think he is a day 2 guy. So clearly they could take him to 31 if they wanted. I think when it all boils down, I think he'll probably be a little bit more towards the 50s. Maybe the Chiefs move around. Maybe they do that. I'd be hard pressed to take him at 31 myself, unless like my top 6 or 7 edges and tackles are all gone. Because I do think wide receiver is an important move. I don't know if it's the most. I don't think that it is. So it really has to be a bare cupboard to go wide receiver in the first round for me. Any veteran receivers who can come in at the right price. There are several. They all have baggage. They all have some question marks. Let me take a look at it. In fact, I'll share this with you guys real quick. If I can make that work, because I'm challenged at times. Let's take a look at it. I was looking at backup quarterbacks. Like I said, Sam Darnold, maybe Jacoby Brissett, who is crazily 31 years old already, might be a pick there. And and here we are. Wide receiver. Michael Thomas has been hurt. He's going to get a lot of money. I don't think that's an option. Marvin Jones has been a failure in his move to Jacksonville. They might try to bring him back at a lower contract. I can't give him a ton of money either. The guy on here that intrigues me the most is Jacoby Myers. I like what he started to show. He's just rounding into shape. I do like that. Jarvis is over the hill. AJ Green, I think, has actually said he's going to retire. Cobb, obviously Juju's there. Old friend Byron Pringle. I don't know that I'd bring Byron back because you need a guy that can be a 2 right now. Maybe have to draft a 1. Let's see. N'Keal Harry, no thanks. Mac Hollins, role player. I don't think he can actually be a 2 in my personal opinion. And this is where you get into it. It's tough finding a replacement. I mean, McCole is a guy that is underachieved, but Chiefs might want him back. I think you can spend less money and get Justin Watson back, who I think still has some upside to him. Let's see here. Slayton, I don't know. I always liked Miles Boykin. I don't think he ever worked out, but it is what it is. Dortch has been a guy who's been better than I think most people perceive. That's about it. So it's not like a really thick pool, but there's a pool there. Guys that could come in like Watson did as a veteran, but somebody who has to compete. I can get down with that. Thanks, Chris, and thank you, Tactics. Who is Mahomes' best running back? I still say it's Kareem. In terms of just the best player who's played running back for him, I don't think I could argue with that. I mean, at times, Damian, and situationally, Damian and Jarek, I think, would be right in the mix there. But as an every down starting back, Kareem was the best that he had. And hey, you never know what they're going to do. I think Pacheco's a great addition. I think Pacheco needs a 2. And I think Jarek needs to be used a little bit less. I'm worried about his overall reps, just grinding him out as he gets older. The team wants him back. I understand the organization wants him back. So I think you can get that, but you need 3. You got to get more than just Pacheco, in my opinion, because if Pacheco were to get hurt, I think that really limits what you do with the offense at that point. And I do think Mike Burton comes back. We'll talk to him next week. We'll see what he thinks. Let's see here. Thanks, Tactics. And thank you, New Punk. 11 picks, upgraded cap, a culture built around a decade plus the best quarterback. And I see Andy Reid staying to chase Belichick with Mahomes. I love it. And I think you're probably right on all those things. The only thing that I will say is I think those picks are going to get condensed because I think they're going to trade up a couple of times. So you use those pieces in order to improve your stock at, say, the 3rd round or the 5th round. I think the Chiefs have been very, very good in rounds 2 through 5 in the last 6 years. And I do expect that to continue. Thanks, New Punk. Thank you, Trev. Possible vets, Brissett, Keenum, or Gabbard. I take Brissett out of that every single time. It's not really close to me. Does PFF give George Karlaftis too much guff? Second worst edge. See, and that's the problem. They call him second worst edge, but he's got the second most pressures. So you look at the volume of a season, and George is getting there. Now, pressure percentage, he's not elite. I mean, he's in the top 5, I believe. It is Kayvon and Hutchinson that finished ahead of him. But no, I think this is the thing, and this is why it's bugged me. George has actually played better than I thought he would in terms of like pressure production. But he still has ceiling to get to. So again, and I say this with the utmost respect, PFF does as good as they can. Their grades are not what I base my evaluations on. They're great at gathering stats. I don't know if they're great about evaluating play. It also depends specifically on which person's grading the games. It is that kind of subjective piece. So yeah, they do give him too much grief. Got that one. And sorry, clicking around. Well, thank you for the super chat, buddy. D-line, tackle, wide receiver, safety, running back. Rank what you think is the priority for the draft. Well, it is edge and tackle, and I see them as even. You need them both because right now you got to part ways from Frank Clark. Do you bring him back on a cheap contract just to play the playoffs? Possibly. But you can't keep his full salary, right? So you need another starter there. You need at least one starter at offensive tackle, maybe two. I don't know what the status of Lucas Niang is, and so I'm operating as though Lucas is not an option. But I see those as right here. I see wide receiver next, and then it would be safety. Well, no, it'd probably be a defensive tackle, then safety, and then running back. You can get running backs 5th, 6th, 7th undrafted that can be just as good. Isaiah Pacheco proved that. So I will not spend a top 100 on a running back ever. If I was the Chiefs, I would not spend anything more than a 6th or 7th on a running back this year. And Pacheco has proven that case. So I don't think they're going to go outside of that either. Mike Evans. Dan, I don't think Mike Evans is a free agent. He might have a void clause that I don't know about, where maybe he could make himself one, but I don't think that he is. He's not listed as one right now. OBJ as a 2 or too expensive. That's the real question. Well, it's not the real question. The real question is he even healthy enough to play again? Because what I've heard is that the Cowboys were legit in saying he's not ready, he's not recovered. So you'd hope he is by training camp, but I don't know. So we'll have to see. But yeah, the contract is definitely going to have to fit. If he wants a ring, he has to fit in there in a lower salary. That's just the way that it is. So I think it probably leans toward too expensive, my friend. Let's see. Thoughts on drafting Rashee Rice from SMU? I like that you like Tillman and Perry. Yeah. I've seen a little bit of his film. Hard, honestly, for me to get all 22 from SMU. I haven't gotten much of it. I think just 1 or 2 games. I like him. He's not terribly consistent in what I have seen. He's a guy that can grow, and he does have some skill set, but he's a day 2 guy for me. And if that were the way that it worked out and they have a high eval on him, I can live with that. I just don't think that I could draft him 31. Can we get D-Hop? They can. Means they're going to have to not only convert Patrick's clause, but they're going to have to sign Chris and get a ton of cap space, and they're going to have to overspend for Hop. Hop's 31 years old. I think almost 32. He's at the end, and I don't think I can pay top dollar for him anymore. Let's see. Do you think that we could talk OBJ into moving over to right tackle? That's going to be the question. If this does work out the way that it could be that Wiley gets a contract from another team that the Chiefs just aren't willing to match. And it could be that the Chiefs are in the position then to say, we're going to franchise tag you, Orlando. And we're going to let you play right tackle, or we're going to trade you. That could happen. Now, I will say this. The team is much happier with Orlando's play than we are. I don't know if the organization is. If the organization is as happy as the team is, they might ride it out and just franchise him one more time, let him play left tackle, and then be prepared to walk away as he gets older. Unless he'll take like a sub 20 per year contract, in which case I do like him better at right. And it's back to this same thing. I want more of an athlete at left, knowing that Patrick is right-handed. That's just the way that it rolls. I don't think Orlando would play for that, though, if he has a choice. Why do the Colton Titans give us the weirdest game? That's a great question. I don't know. I really don't. I used to think that it was, somebody on the coaching staff that had an in or knew what they were looking at more so than other teams. I don't think so anymore. There's just something about those teams. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that the Chiefs underestimate them every time because they're kind of bad teams. I don't know. John Coy, Juju, yes. I like Watson. More Tony than who? That's the question. It will be someone new is my thought. I hope that it's Juju in there. I hope that they can work out a contract. I don't think it's going to be as much from the Chiefs side as Juju wants it to be. So that's going to be the question. But he has made it very clear in a number of different ways that he wants to be back. And so I think it is there for the taking. So let's go with that. More Tony, obviously. Watson, I think. draft pick and possibly one of these free agents. Like I can't bring in T.Y. Hilton. I got to tell you, if Jacoby Myers were interested, I'd be interested very much so. He can line up at X all day long and beat press. I really like the evolution that he's gone under so far. The question is what the money is, because he's not a number one in terms of money in my mind. He might be in his. So let's see. But definitely someone in the draft too. I just don't know if it's going to be 31. I doubt it. If your wide receiver one falls in the class to 31, is there any chance you take him? I'm not sure I want to pay a guy with the crazy wide receiver market. That's fair. The market is kind of nuts. I don't think this crop of free agents is going to be as crazy, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but I hope not. If my wide receiver one fell all the way, then yes, I would consider that. You would have to, because that's just too much value. If you have a wide receiver one, he's more than likely a top 15 pick on your board. And if that's the way my board falls and he's available, then yes, I would have to consider that. Right now, I still have Addison as my one, and JSN is my 2, and Quentin Johnson is my 3. Beyond that, it's still up in the air a little bit. And those are by no means set in stone right now. That is very preliminary, but that's where I got. And for those of you who are interested in the draft and want to know all this stuff, you can find all of our work at NFL 33. You'll have my rankings, you'll have Dan's rankings, you'll have the rest of our team's rankings. It is behind the paywall. That is, another thing that we do that isn't necessarily Chiefs specific, but you can get that. I would encourage you, and I would thank you for your support over there at NFL33.com. It's our Substack, just like Seth's, and it's the same kind of subscription process. Is Justin Ross able to make an impact next season? I would love it if he is. I just have no way to know. We don't get injury reports in the offseason on guys that are on IR, so we haven't gotten anything clinical update about him. And that's really what it is. It's the two things that he needed to do is pass a physical and learn the offense. He should have had enough time to learn the offense, even if I know it was tough for him in OTAs and camp. But it seems like he should have had plenty of time to learn that now. So it really is about, is he physically capable or not? Or is he a guy who's just going to constantly get re-injured? I just don't know. So I tend to be skeptical, because a guy that has this many significant injuries, it's hard to come back from, but you never know. 3rd, 4th round running back this year. Nope, not going to do it. If somebody crazy falls to the 4th round, 3rd, no, I will not take a top 100 running back, period. If there was a comp pick at 104, I would have to think about it. But 4th round, yes, I can get down with that. Like if Roschon Johnson fell, he should be a top 5 running back. If he were to fall, or Kenny McIntosh were to fall into the 4th, I'd have to consider that. In fact, I just did a mock draft the other day that I had to consider that. And I'm okay with it at that point. I just can't do it in the top 100 because Pacheco's a rookie, because he's proven that a 7th round guy can be your starting running back on a championship team. I think Isaiah Pacheco proved me wrong. I didn't think he'd be this good. I didn't think he'd take CEH's job as a rookie. I thought we'd be talking about, hey, we got to let CEH go now because Pacheco's come along. I didn't think he'd take it as a rookie. But he's just proving my point that you can get just as good a running back play in the 7th as you can in the 1st. Let's see. Joaquin, would it be possible to trade up for Tyree Wilson? I think it is possible, because I think the media has him as a top 5 pick. I don't think the league has him as that. I don't think they will. You guys will see some of why I say that as we get through the draft process and I post some of my thoughts on him. I do have him as a good player. He's in my top 10. I think he might even be approaching my top 5, but he's not up there with Will Anderson. He's just not. He's going to have people fall in love with him because he's a physical specimen. He is Tano Passanio, but bigger. That's how fit and giant and long he is. He doesn't exactly know what he's doing with his hands yet either. And so there's upside, but that's a risk. So we're going to have long discussions about him, because he's a guy that Spags will love. And if he fell to 20, I think they might go up and get him. Let's see here. Do you think the offense will be more fast-paced with Nagy now as an OC? Could be. But again, if they keep getting light boxes and teams dropping 7, dropping 8, they have to run. So I think it's more like it's going to slide the other way. But what does that mean? It means that Nagy's going to have a chance to draw up some run game a little bit. And I think they went back to the well. They went old school, like the one with the split back run in the Super Bowl. That's a play from the 80s. They might go old school that way. But Matt has a way to twist things. He's a creative play designer as well. And so I think that will be the basis that they create variations off of. Let's see. How high would the Chiefs need to trade up in round one for an LT or a wide receiver? If you want to get one of the top three, and that is Skoronski, and even he is an argument about whether he should really be a guard or not. If you want to get Broderick Jones, who I think is the best tackle available right now, or Paris Johnson, you have to get up there. You have to get into the top 10. And that would be, I don't know, that would be so difficult. I don't know that I could even see it happening, to tell you the truth. That is so far-fetched. The quality that you would have to give up to get there is enormous. But if they like Anton Harrison, okay. I mean, DeJuan Jones, if they buy into the power thing and they love what Orlando's doing, if the team loves it as much and they want to keep Orlando, they'll franchise him and they'll draft either DeJuan Jones or Darnell Wright, because they're two guys that are very much like him. They're super big, tall, and arm length, which is what the Chiefs love in terms of arm length, and they're bad on their lower bodies. They don't have the great footwork. DeJuan Jones showed one day of improved footwork, and he quit the Senior Bowl. He said, screw it. I put everything on film I came here to do. I am out, because if I continue and I slow my feet down at all, it's going to ruin the gains I just made. So he played one day and mysteriously had a concussion and walked out of the Senior Bowl. I think that was very much calculated on his part, because he and Darnell Wright are very much like Orlando Brown in that length, power, size is their pluses. Feet, movement, agility are their minuses. Let's see here. Gotta say, it's crazy that 15 years ago we had Heward, Croyle, and Castle, and now we are the team. Hope we fans never forget how far we've come. Good point, New Punk. It is a turn of fortunes, and what's the difference there? It's also the whole organization turned over based on Andy Reid. Brett Veach is here because of Andy Reid. Let's not get it twisted. It's not that he was a Dorsey disciple. He's been with Andy Reid, so that really is the driver. And thanks for the support, buddy. I like Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma. Yeah, I like him too. And at 4, I would be very happy with that. I'm not sure he makes it there. I do think he's a fringe top 100 guy. He might go late 3rd. Chad Coma, do you think that Tershawn Wharton will be back or move on? I thought Turk had another year. If I'm incorrect, then I think it's going to be based on his recovery, because I do think the team likes him, and I do think he still has upside. I think they're very happy, but I thought he had another year on his contract. Let me check that. Maybe I am incorrect. That would not be great. I wouldn't be so happy about that, to tell you the truth. Let me put it up over here and see. Derek's a free agent. Yes. Brandon Williams a free agent because he was on a 1 year. Colin is a free agent. We know that. Colin had his year. But I do believe that Turk Wharton is still under contract. So I think it'll be here. If I'm wrong and he is available, I think they'll try to bring him back. I just don't know what it'll look like. Thank you, Chad. And thanks for the support, buddy. I appreciate it. It's kind of an ad hoc, last second live stream on a Friday, but hey. Dylan, what's the possibility of John Ross stepping in and taking the McCole Hardman jet sweep role, or even the possibility of him being a return man? I think it's low. I have never seen John Ross run a jet sweep well. I think there's a vision issue there. He is a downfield attacking vertical guy. I think that's what he does best. In fact, going back to Washington, I don't know that I remember him working much laterally, period, whether it was behind the line of scrimmage or in front of it. So in terms of the deep threat that McCole was before this year and what MVS did in stretching the field, he could do that, but he is in the exact same boat as the other Ross. Can he stay healthy? That's the big question, and I just don't know if he can. Thoughts on Lucas Van Ness? Max, I'm really interested that you brought him up because he's a guy that I haven't done a ton of film on, but the 2 films I have watched, he's been 2 very important things. He's been very good when I see him rush in terms of creativity, adaptation, being able to have a counter, and he's well athletic. I don't know if he's going to be the top athlete, but he's going to be up there in this draft class for the edges. but he also doesn't play a lot. He's never started for Iowa because they've always felt that he had some holes in his game. And I think the projection to the league is important, but I don't think he can be everything. And so I don't think he's a top 10 player like I've seen some mocks take him. Could he squeeze into this first day? Possibly. If he's there at 31, could the Chiefs look at him? Possibly. I think he's more of a early day 2 guy, but I do like him, what I've seen so far, and I will continue as we move forward as well. I'm working on Will McDonald from Iowa State right now, so I'll have some information about him here pretty soon too. You think Juju gets 3 years, $12 million sound fair? It sounds wickedly fair to me. You're talking $4 million a year. I would take that in a heartbeat. I think Juju can command probably double that, is what I think. And the question will be, are the Chiefs willing to do that, or somebody else willing to do that first? How good is Knowles from Kansas State? He's okay. He's got some skills. He's obviously got the physical frame. I just haven't seen him do things that make me feel like he can make the leap to the NFL easily. I think it's going to be work for him. I think he's going to have to be a role player as a rookie, to tell you the truth. He should be a day 3 guy, in my opinion, right now. And I haven't broken down all of his film yet. I've watched a couple live, and I've done, I think, 2 all 22 studies. But I think he's obviously got the size to play X and deal with the press. But that's one of the things that I have to go back and watch is the 2 games that I saw, he had some issues with press, even though he's got size. So I got to go back and look at that. But I like where you're thinking there. Seriously, who the heck picked CEH? That's the question, Tactics. As we've been told, it was Veach that found, it was Ryan Nutt that found him. Ryan went to Veach. Veach fell, took it to Andy. Andy fell. Mostly, as I understand, for the pass catching ability and his ability to still have leg drive in piles and those kind of things. That just didn't materialize in the pros. Not enough. And so that's the big question, is what went wrong? Let's see. Seriously. Oh, no, that's the right one. I guess I picked the wrong one. Was Pacheco getting better on his vision, or were they running different plays for him? It was a bit of both. I think he saw a couple of things well. He still has a couple of problems, and that's his drawback. He is very much see air, go air kind of right now. And unfortunately, sometimes it's see air when there's not air and run into the guy in front of him anyway. So that's something he needs to improve. And that's why I say you do need a 2 back that doesn't have to be Jerick McKinnon every time. I'm not a Rojo guy. I don't think the Chiefs are Rojo guys. So I don't think that he's back. I believe he was on a 1 year. So I do believe he'll be gone, and they'll be looking to fill several running back roles. I love, by the way, speaking of Knowles, I love Deuce Vaughn as a day 3 running back. In the 5th, 6th round, maybe even the 7th. I think he's going to fall because of his size. It's a risk to go small again for the Chiefs. But I love what he does. And he is exactly, in the 6th or 7th round, what Clyde was supposed to be in the 1st round. A smaller, quicker, pass-catching running back. But he's got more juice by a long shot. So I really like Deuce Vaughn for this team as well. Let's see here. Do you like the TD pass to Sky Moore, that they were in the wrong formation, right? And that's the fun part. And watch again. It's not just that they were in the wrong formation. Who came out and was whooping it up with Patrick Mahomes at that time? That was Matt Nagy. So it was instant understanding of what was supposed to be there. You could tell he was in on the design. You could tell he understands what's there. I think that relationship, that moment just off of the Super Bowl, is an inclination of what that relationship can be. And he tried to call timeout and wasn't in time. I know, it's crazy, right? I remember Patrick saying, I tried to motion from this way and the guy wasn't there, so I had to go back over here. Hey, well, if you can fake your own teammates out, as long as the quarterback knows what you're going to try to do, I think you're okay. Wing T, I'm all for it. You know how I feel. If EB is gone, who's the next best to replace Andy? I mean, let's be honest. If it came down to you can have anybody, Andy's going to recommend Doug Peterson. I'm fairly certain of that. But he has a job. So it's about who's available. And Matt Nagy is the best of Andy's tree that would be available to be the head coach right now, in my opinion. We'll see what happens with EB. If he's as successful as an offensive coordinator as I think he will be, I think he will become a head coach as well. Aside from Frank Clark, who will save around $21 million against the cap, it's only actually going to be around 13 because he's going to have almost 8 in dead cap money. Who's next to go on the save money list? It's a good question. Let me take a quick look and we can look at it together for all I care. That sounds kind of fun. Let's take a look at it. Oh, come on now. Oh, got to put it back in the stream. There we go. Okay, and I can change this so that it fits a little bit better. Let's go look at KC's list. That's all the free agents for the Chiefs. Here's a little lesson on navigating over the cap. So you can convert Chris and take some of this guaranteed out of there, get his cap number down. So that's first. Travis has already reworked his, so I think there's more penalties if you tried to rework Travis. So then the next would be Justin Reed. And so you got to think that you can restructure him. This would be a cut. They do have an out in Marquez's contract. I mean, that's probably where it's at for the most part. The big thing is that you can recover, $35 million. Well, you'd have to prorate it over 5, so you can recover $28 million from Patrick's contract by converting it. So this is why we keep saying that there's an out, because this year MVS was 2.5 against the cap. Now it jumps to 8, and your cap savings here is $1 million. So the dead money's pretty low here. That's the way they designed a 3-year contract to really just be a 1-year contract. And so that will get you a bunch back with $4 million in dead cap. That's a lot, like on their per contracts, but I think they're comfortable with it. Thanks for the question, Michael. I appreciate that. And thank you, Alex, as always. Glad you're back. Sign OBJ for a year and re-sign Juju. Mahomes 2 rings. Yes. I mean, if you can get OBJ to come in at a reasonable number, if you can get both those guys for a combined 20 mil a year, I'm good with that. I don't think that can happen. I would love it at 17, but at 20, I can live with it. And then you draft a big guy. You draft one of the big body X's or something along those lines. I like that concept. Even immediate, if you like the smaller guys and you just think he's a better receiver, then that's fine with me. It doesn't have to be a true X. But you got to have somebody with a little bit more size. Jafar, your dream tight end to replace Travis Kelce. What round would you draft tight end? Ooh, that's a good one. My dream, I think, is already in the league. In fact, I think he's the kid from Wisconsin, Ferguson, and I'm pretty sure I got to double check it. It was either Orlson, but I think it was Kelce that just talked about him last week as a guy that he thinks can become what Travis is. That's crazy. And I like Jake Ferguson a lot. I loved him at Wisconsin. He just made plays with very few opportunities, but that's a guy that I would look at. And what round would I draft tight end? And this year it's pretty good. I could even get talked into the second round, depending on who's available. I don't think it's going to be as high end as everybody's making it out to be. I don't think that you're going to see Meyer and Kincaid and Musgrave all go in the first. I just don't think that that's going to happen. So maybe you have a chance in the second. John Ross, reincarnation of Willie Gault? No, not in any way, shape, or form. Willie Gault was a long, tall, leggy speed demon. John Ross is fast, but he's way short and small. He is less thick. He can't take a hit. And he has better lateral agility than Willie had as well. Willie was a legger, and I grew up in Chicago, so I watched him for a number of years. Do you agree that the rugby QB sneaks would need to be gone? I mean, partially, yes. It is just such an advantage. They are going to do it constantly, and it's just going to be a thing. It will also way increase the amount of fourth downs that are attempted in the league. I think they're going to modify it. I think they're going to stop pushing from behind on the quarterback, but I think the team will then immediately say, okay, then we're just going to push the linemen. We're going to use backs to push the linemen. The quarterback will then have a bigger gap. That's what I think will happen. Dustin, do you like Rice, Mingo, or Tillman in the second or after? I think they all are going to be in the second or after. If I had to pick one right now to fit the Chiefs, I think probably the best overall. Oh, that's tough. I think Rice and Tillman are very close. I think Mingo is the third. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be Tillman for the Chiefs. What do you think about Cody Monk from North Dakota State? I think he's good. He struggled at the Senior Bowl for some reason. I didn't expect it. I do think he's good. I do think he's a guard. So I don't think he's on the Chiefs' radar. But I also think that he has room to grow. I think he's got potential still there. All those guys from NDSU, I do think they have more ceiling than the average prospect. Thank you for this, FLDB, and thanks for being here, buddy. If you guys would subscribe to all of our shows here, this channel is huge. We have a lot of voices. I'm just the tip of the spear because this is my channel and I started it. But Dan's got his own voice now. Seth Kaiser is here. You guys know from Arrowhead Pride and The Athletic and Chief in the North and Times Hours. Gary is back with all the analytics that I wish I could do that I don't have the time to research anymore. So Gary McKenzie, formerly of Arrowhead Pride, is knocking it out. Jason Dunn comes by. There's a lot going on here, and we have a lot more coming for you. Got some cool twists coming in the next year, too. Why would you waste the money and time on D-Hop? And that's the thing. He's old. He's still got a little bit in him, but I think he's got to be managed more than I like. And I don't think I would go for it. Thoughts on Mike Vick as KC QB coach for 23? I don't think that I'm there on Mike Vick as a QB coach. I'd rather have Alex. If we're talking ex-player, I'd rather have Alex Smith in a heartbeat. Because I don't think everything Mike Vick did translates to what Patrick wants to do. That's just my personal opinion. Now, who knows? Maybe they get along, and maybe the relationship and that thing bucks the system, and I just don't know about that. Maybe that makes it more worth it. Pacheco needs to work on cutbacks. Yes, he does, and that's the vision issue. He's got to learn where to look, I think, before he can learn how to look. He clearly doesn't have great peripheral vision, or I think he would have done that already. So it's really about teaching him where the gaps should be. Where should the cutbacks be? Who should have the advantage on a week-to-week basis in their blocks, so he might be the guy that comes up with the extra gap in zone or has the advantage in the power. So it's a learning process. He's a seventh rounder and a rookie for a reason. I think he's going to get better. New Punk, as far as receiver goes, do you think Veach will find guys like Juju to fill in or try to take a lesser name and make them one? It just depends on the draft class. I think they have to draft and sign free agents. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. Yevgeny, thank you very much. Appreciate you. For both starting tackles hitting free agents, how do you think the Chiefs could upgrade at the position? I think they have to draft someone, and I think they have to bring one of them back. Let's see. If I look at the tackle class, I don't know. Honestly, if there's much for the pickings there. I do think if there is one position that they would like to go veteran free agent, it would be wide receiver or tackle. I think the edge they want to get younger at. So let me look here, and I should share the screen. What an idea. There we go. So what we're getting here, and I guess I can just do this. And I'll tighten that up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so what we're getting is just by salary, you see that Orlando Brown is the top of the list here. I don't think George Fant is really somebody I want to do. I don't think Eric Fisher is going to play again. I could be wrong. Juwan James is an interesting one. I think that could be a possibility on the right-hand side. Jason Peters is nowhere near an option. Greg Little, I haven't watched enough to know if I'm really happy with him. Obviously, we know who Jerron Christian is. Cedric, man, it's crazy that he's still on a roster. There just isn't much here that makes me go, oh, I could go get him and get by. So that's the problem. If we look at the right tackle spot, old Cam Irving, Mike McGlinchey, I think his run in San Francisco come to an end because it deserves to, because he has fallen off quite a bit, in my opinion. So I don't know if that's going to be an option. The guy that I like here is Isaiah Wynn. He's the guy that I'm looking for in free agency if I'm the Chiefs. I think that he can do something. Juwan Taylor could be an option as well. Let's see who else. I don't think I can bring in Rems, although we like him. I don't think I can bring in Marcus Cannon. Fetty, LaRaven, no, thank you. Nobody else that really does it for me. And I think the Prince Tager Wanago experiment is over. So Wynn is the guy that I'm kind of like, you know what? I think he can probably do it, at least at the right-hand side. He might even be able to play left. I'd have to go look at his grades this year because I didn't follow it that closely. But that's what I'm thinking. Thank you for that question, and I appreciate it. Alex, draft Sam Laporta next year out of Iowa. Yeah, I like what he does. And actually, I thought he said he was coming out this year. Iowa tends are usually pretty good. Take a look at him when he plays. I have, and I have seen him a little bit, and I do like what I saw I'd have to see, but I think he's in this class, buddy, and he would be probably a day 3 guy that you could pick up that I think could grow into a nice role. Will Kennard end up at guard? If I had anything to say about it, I told you guys the day he was drafted, he's a guard. I think the only one who doesn't understand that is Kennard. So we'll see what happens. Callie, if there was no Mahomes, would we have sniffed the Super Bowl with Alex Smith? That's a good one. With this group, no. They might have been able to push for 19. They might have been able to make it the year that they lost to the Bucks. I think they probably would have lost both those games. But without Tyreek, I don't know that Alex could have pushed you that far to get to the Super Bowls. Sorry, just the truth the way I see it. Thank you, A. Appreciate you. German, you make me laugh. You missed it all, buddy. All of it. Yeah, I am sick a little bit. Came back to the cold in Colorado after being in Mexico for a few days, and I started coughing and stuff the night of the Super Bowl, and it's just gotten worse since then, so apologies. Has NFL tech advanced to the point where the teams are using computers and AI to analyze opposing teams? I don't know about AI, but they are definitely using analytics, computer-based, as well as all kinds of computer sims, computer film, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate you guys and all your support and you being here. Thank you very much. Sorry to see EB go, but I'm glad that he's getting on with his life and getting on with his way of doing things. So I think that's good for his career. Unfortunately, the Chiefs aren't going to get compensation for it. I wish they had. But cookie crumbles the way it crumbles, and you just got to eat it. So that's what's going to happen. I am excited about the future. Look for a couple of interviews and then Matt Nagy to become the OC. That's my thought. I'm going to be away this weekend with some family stuff, so you guys enjoy yourselves. Got a mock draft for you on Locked On Chiefs on Monday. We'll have the Monday Q&A, and we will go from there. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next time.